A lot of people say that, hunting turkeys in Mississippi is pretty cutthroat, but I say I don't think it has to be that way. I think if we're not sharing those experiences, all I can do is tell somebody what happened while I was out there in the woods. But if I have somebody with me, they can experience it as well, and they can get hooked. So imagine when I put them first. I've been blessed to take a lot of turkeys and different things. So
And deer.
yeah, and deer. So by me putting other people first, that's how you keep the legacy and the tradition going on.
Even with our kids, it's helping them to develop their character. They're young now, so as they get older, they will have those skills that they learn out there in the woods. They will have all of those skills to take with them as they get older, and gun safety skills, how to handle firearms. Practicing all of that plays a major part in their life as they get older and get out into this real world as well.
It is certainly possible that we have never seen a time, at least in our lifetime, where family is so important. It is our responsibility as parents to raise our kids to be able to one day provide for themselves and to teach them the skills necessary to one day be sustainable members of society. This is exactly what drew me into the story of Henry and Lakeisha Woodard. They have prioritized their relationship with God. They have prioritized their marriage in a world where marriages fall apart every day, and they have prioritized the art of being self-sufficient. And the incredible thing is that they are teaching all these skills to their kids. Before we jump into my talk with Henry and Lakeisha, I just wanted to ask that you guys would connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at the handle @RiceKillEat. You can also find me on Facebook at the URL facebook.com/RKE as in Rice Kill Eat a field. All right, and I'm also on YouTube where I will post this episode along with other episodes of the podcast. That way, if you guys prefer to listen on YouTube, or if you have somebody who prefers to listen on YouTube and you want to share this with them, then you can share it that way, and you can just give them the YouTube URL. It just gives you an easy way to share the Rice Kill Eat podcast with other people if they're interested. And that's one thing I want to ask you guys to do is, if you guys are getting any value from the Rice Kill Eat podcast, then tell your friends about it, because this podcast is a show literally designed for people who love God, freedom, and the great outdoors. That's something that I want to continue to stress on this show. That's something that I want to always have at the forefront of the topics of the conversations of the show. It's, of course, our pursuit of God, our pursuit of freedom, and our pursuit of the outdoors. So those three things are really what this show is all about. And I've been able to have some pretty incredible conversations with some really awesome people. Anybody that has been listening to the Rice Kill Eat podcast for any amount of time, you guys have hopefully seen that already. And I've got many more to come. So I'm excited to be able to share today's conversation with you guys. So again, you guys can connect with me on those social media accounts and share the Rice Kill Eat podcast with your friends and family. So in the show notes of this episode, you can find some more information about how to connect with Henry and Lakeisha. So be sure to head there and check out more of their story. So this is the first time that I actually have more than one guest on at the same time. So this was a little bit of a learning curve for me. It was a little bit of a learning experience for me. But nonetheless, I had a great conversation with Henry and Lakeisha, all about family, all about hunting, of course, all about marriage, all about having a platform together. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy my conversation with Henry and Lakeisha Woodard. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's dive right into my talk with Henry and Lakeisha Woodard on the Rice Kill Eat podcast. So here we go. We'll go ahead and get started here. So I'm sitting here with Henry and Lakeisha. So this is pretty cool that I was able to get connected with you guys, and I appreciate you guys being on the Rice Kill Eat podcast with me. Like I was saying before we kind of started recording here, this is my first time doing an episode with more than one other person on the line. So this is going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but I think we're going to make it work. But thank you guys for being on the Rice Kill Eat podcast with me.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Let's go ahead and kind of dive into, how things are going for you guys down in Mississippi. Do I have that right? Is that where you guys are down in Mississippi?
Yes, that's correct. We're in Mississippi.
How are things going for you guys down there?
Oh, okay. Mississippi is great. From the hunting to just the culture down here in the South is it's truly a blessing to grow up in the South. you know,
Yeah, and with our kids, well, they're not in school right now, but everything's going to be opening back up pretty soon with the school and everything. But so far, we've just been pretty much just enjoying this little time that we've been having, spending more time together because a lot of stuff has been closed down. So we just been kind of just relaxing, doing our little hunting thing still, and getting practicing with our guns, things like this. So everything's been going great.
Absolutely. With everything going on right now, and everything shut down or whatever. I know it's different across the states, and each state has their own little stipulations. I'm in Kentucky, where right now it's a nightmare, but 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 there has been a some blessings in disguise, kind of like what you mentioned, where we have more family time right now because of everything shut down. Like, if you typically work or school or extracurricular activities, all these different things, they take away from that family time. But whenever all that kind of stuff's taken away, then that leaves plenty of opportunity for family time. So you guys mentioned schools reopening. So have they already decided that schools are going to open up down there?
They are, and they actually are giving parents an option whether they want to do online schooling for their kids or if they want to let them come back on campus. And because I have smaller kids, and I know how it is with the hand washing and the hand sanitizer and all of that, I'm thinking I'm going to just probably do online for them, because little kids, it's hard to kind of keep them a little focused, So
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a couple of small kids too. My son, he's 6. He'll be 7 in October, and then I have a 4.5-year-old little girl. And I completely understand, because I mean, there's no way you guys are they're gonna be able to keep those kids apart, because it's just part of how they learn. Like, that's just they get in each other's faces. They learn by contact, and they just learn by feeding off each other's body language. So that's just part of how those kids learn. So I completely understand that platform, as far as wanting to keep them home for that purpose. And that's probably how we're going to end up having to do some stuff over here in Kentucky too. They've thrown some ideas around, but with everything kind of going on, with politics and all that kind of stuff, there's really no definitive answers right now as far as how our state's going to handle it. But most likely our kids are going to be sitting at home too, which is just kind of like what we were mentioning before, add into that family time. But so how's it been for the marriage? Being home all the time and that kind of thing. How
well,
has that affected that kind of stuff?
well, me and Lakeisha, we actually get along quite well.
That's
You know,
good.
I'm being recorded right now.
Right. You gotta watch what you say, then you come back and use it. So.
Me and Lakeisha, it's our relationship. It really is. It's the good always outweighs the bad. And me and Lakeisha, we were best friends even before we got married, and it wasn't a long friendship or anything like that. It's just that our personalities it just kind of blended, you know. And so we've always been close, even when me and Lakeisha and our early marriage, when we were trying to figure out each other. If we would get upset with one another, um, there was no such thing as like splitting up or anything. If she was upset with me, I was upset with her. Uh, we would be upset in the same room, because we didn't want to.
Right.
there's no sleeping on the couch.
Right. I mean, we get along. Um, I trust Lakeisha, and she's smart. And I mean, what I can't do, she can do, and it's like we complement each other. So us just being together, it's almost like we were made, just to be together, and it just works out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's there's a I've heard from a lot of different people, and with everything going on and everybody being at home right now, marriages, I feel like, are either flourishing, doing awesome, or kind of the other extreme. That's great that you guys kind of have that going on, uh, with each other, and being able to have that marriage relationship. And I've always heard, I've been married for geez, I put myself on the spot here. Let me make sure I get this right. Been married for 8 years now, so um, I definitely understand, that complementing each other. And, there's the idea that marriage is 50-50, but in reality, it's 100-100. Each person has to be able to give everything they have to the other person in order for the marriage to work. And that's great that you guys have that complementing relationship. You guys have that prioritized also.
Yes, and I mean, Lakeisha and I, we've been married for 18 years, and um, got married at an early age. I was 20 and Lakeisha was 18. So we have literally grown up together and matured together. So um, we really know each other very well. I mean, if we're at the point now that like if she's pressing my buttons, I know what she's doing. If I'm pressing her buttons, she knows what I'm doing. So it's like, you know, it ain't a whole lot of surprises no more. So
That's great. Yeah, my wife and I we got married pretty young. I was 20 and she was 21, so we were kind of right around that same age. And it's the same thing where like you guys kind of just grow up together. You figure life out together. It's just one of those things that, and I think that's what really makes a lot of marriages great, is that you know you have it's different than getting married whenever you're older, like in your early 30s, mid 30s or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but whenever you get married at a young age, I feel like it's just enhances the relationship, because you guys are figuring out life together, and all the ups and downs that come with that age. And it's something that I've definitely benefited from as well, with my wife. And that's awesome you guys have done that. And you guys have also used your platform of hunting, as a married couple as well, which is pretty interesting, because typically, you'll see people that have their own platform, their own Instagram, or even you may have people who hunt together, or who hunt or and are married, but they have their separate platforms. But you guys have kind of approached it with like a married approach, like together. The name Halo, I'm assuming is Henry and Lakeisha Outdoors, right? So you guys have used that as a married couple, and I just think that's incredible that you guys have done that.
yes, me and Lakeisha, it's been awesome. We are about God, family, and the outdoors. And me and Lakeisha and the family, us doing it that kind of way, it has brought us most definitely closer together. Earlier, the hunting was kind of like it was the thing that I would do when me and Lakeisha first got married, and she was kind of wondering why would I, be leaving her and different things. And so um, one day I invited her out, and it was a turkey hunt, really, that I believe that really got her hooked.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, come on out, come out to the woods with me. And just all I need you to do is just run the camera, just hold the camera and film. And
That's how he hooked me.
yeah, so she told me you start running the camera.
So as I was out there filming for Henry, because like Henry said, he was like, just come out there, because he used to leave me every weekend. Like I always say, he used to leave me every weekend. And some days I used to hope that it rained, so he wouldn't go outside in the woods. But, that didn't stop anything. And so I went out there with him with the camera filming him. And this was like my first time actually being outdoors, turkey hunting, out there in the woods like that. And Henry was doing his mouth calling to a turkey, and the turkey started gobbling back, and they were going back and forth, their interaction. I was like, oh my goodness, like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. This is my first time seeing a turkey. So after about 3 2 once the turkey came into our setup, I don't know, about 20 30 yards or whatever, and 3 2 1 boom. And after that, I've really been hooked on the outdoors. Henry said, Lakeisha, you know what, next time you're gonna shoot, and I'm gonna film you shooting. So after that, I've been turkey hunting and addicted to the outdoors ever since. And believe it or not, I was pregnant during that time. Normally, when we're always hunting, I was always pregnant because we have 4 kids, and that's probably why they love being in the outdoors. And then we also had one of our baby girls actually on a hunt with us when I took my first turkey. Actually, with Henry and I, we doubled up.
Yeah, it was an epic hunt. I mean, oh man, it was awesome because we were just a property that was just no more than probably the turkey would come into a 1 to 2 acre plot, and we were in the ground blind, and I mean we would sit there, we would call, we couldn't run and gun on that particular property, and we just were sitting there, and all of a sudden we heard something that sounded like literally we heard some stumping on the ground, and we looked back, and it was about 3 longbeards, I believe, just came running in at the point we had set up, and I mean, it was awesome. I mean,
was like so
yeah,
amazing.
I mean,
Wow.
their heads were just glowing fire red, and I mean, it was awesome, and I mean, we counted, I believe we counted it off,
Yeah.
and I ended up shooting, Did you
like
shoot?
you shot a few. No, I didn't shoot on the count of 3 because
Yeah.
I think you shot before.
Right, and they
I
when I shot, they moved, and Lakeisha had a 20 gauge, and I'm gonna tell you something. Would have counted it out because that turkey had to be, man. That turkey was pushing. I know, right at 50 yards, and I thought it was over, and I just told her, Lakeisha, shoot, and she shot, and I mean, that she rolled the turkey about 50 yards. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that was the start of what we call the Mississippi Shuffle. Putting the Mississippi long beards. I mean, it was awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great story. And it's, there's nothing better than a spring turkey hunt to really get you hooked because, like, I started turkey hunting, I think it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was not nearly as exciting as your all's hunt was, but, just hearing those gobbles and just seeing how they react to calls. And, really the gobbles is what gets you because you hear that gobble, especially if it's, 20, 30 yards away from you, it'll literally vibrate your chest. And, it's really awesome. One of my favorite things is the spring turkey hunt for those reasons. That's great that you guys had that experience together. And that's awesome. So how did your last spring season go for you? This past spring turkey season, I know a lot of people had a lot of successes because everything being shut down and being able to get out and hunt and stuff. So how were you guys able to do with your last spring turkey season?
Well, this last spring turkey season, we had a whole lot of hunts anticipated. We was gonna have like Lakeisha was throwing an all women's turkey hunt. That got canceled, of course, because of COVID. I actually had a turkey hunt planned with a Grand National turkey caller. I'm not gonna say the name right now because I'm gonna keep it secret to next year. But anyway, that got canceled. So it was. We just didn't know how it was gonna go. And when we did finally get in the woods, the weather was very weird this year. I mean, it took all year, it seemed like, for the fields to green up.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about turkey hunting is this: a lot of times those turkey pups, when they're young, they have to be somewhere where, because they can't eat on grain and different things, they have to be somewhere where there's bugs.
Yeah.
And so when you have bugs in the field, you're going to see the turkeys in the field. Well, I guess me and Lakeisha, we consider ourselves more of field turkey hunters. Now, don't get me wrong, we do hunt in the hardwoods, but when I just think about how many turkeys we kill, I think most of them we kill have been maybe in fields for the most part, and just according to the property, how the property is laid out,
Right.
So they just weren't coming out into the fields, and so we ended up not doing anything in Mississippi. And let me backtrack. It started off with youth season. I did get my daughter, which is my 10-year-old daughter, Trinity. I took her turkey hunting because she was trying to harvest her first turkey because her oldest sister, Angel, had already got a long beard. So this was her time. She was. We had a close call last year with her. I mean, the year before last, and so she was really trying to seal the deal. We saw plenty of jakes in Mississippi. Kids can kill jakes, but they just didn't come in. I mean, but she heard turkeys gobbling, and I mean, her heart got to pumping, and we got fired up. I mean, so anytime I can take my kids out and we can hear the owls hooting and we can hear the turkeys gobbling, I consider that a success. We came safe and we left safe. I consider it a success. But we had a lot of close calls, and the birds just seemed to be really end up. And it seemed like when the season was about ending, it seemed that's when the weather and different things were finally getting right. So we struggled a little bit in Mississippi and Tennessee. Uh, Tennessee's turkey season kind of staggers about 2 weeks later,
Mm-hmm.
and so we ended up going hunting in Tennessee, and there Lakeisha was successful. I mean, it was like night and day when we went to Tennessee. We experienced Jake fights, and I mean, of course, in Tennessee we can shoot a Jake. However, I just chose not to shoot a Jake, but I mean, we were covered in Jakes. I mean, some of the most beautiful footage you ever want to see. They were strutting,
Mhm.
they were gobbling too, and I mean, it was beautiful. And Lakeisha, she was successful. She did kill a nice about 20, I think about 20 pound gobbler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Tennessee, and I mean it was an awesome hunt. Even our daughter, she was in there with
Yeah.
us. Yeah, she witnessed the whole thing. So the first thing she said when it was weird, and it kind of was funny when Lakeisha shot the turkey. The first thing that my daughter said was, she said, "Mama, you smoked them."
Yeah. I smoked
Yeah. So it was funny. It was a great hunt. And I
Mhm.
mean, we had another opportunity as well where me and Lakeisha almost could have doubled up. And this is the thing with me and Lakeisha, since we hunt together, sometimes it's hard. I had the shot, but we were waiting for both turkeys to get into frame. And of course, we were filming and different things,
Right.
but it's kind of weird. But me and Lakeisha, sometimes she'll say, Henry, you shoot first. You're going to shoot first. And I say, no, I'm not shooting first. I said, you're going to shoot first. And so um, that hunt had taken place, and the birds just, if they would have gave us 10 more feet, we could have doubled up.
Yeah.
And of course, I had a shot, but I didn't want to. It's kind of weird. I didn't want to shoot the turkey, and Lakeisha not get a bird.
Yeah.
So
Um,
we just wanted to
he
double up
always
together.
he always tries to, put me first, and I was like, no, here this time you shoot first. He's like, no, you go ahead, you gonna shoot. So and he always put the kids first, now. So I really appreciate that for him because he wants to make sure that we definitely, get that opportunity because I think he feel like he knows that he will probably have chances as well, but he want to make sure that he give us an opportunity as well, and especially our kids also.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I can definitely commend you for that, Henry. That's awesome that you have prioritized that and put everybody else ahead of yourself. It takes a special kind of person to really do that, and unfortunately, you don't really see that a whole lot. Not just in hunting, but really just in society in general. And that's great that you've done that, and that's awesome.
Well, I think that that's some of the characteristics, some of the things that we need to bring out in hunting is because it's not just for me, but it's for
Yeah,
us. It's for everyone. And if we do that, we'll continue our legacy and our heritage of hunting. It will continue to go on because we would pass it down. You know, I've heard, especially Mississippi turkeys, a lot of people say that, hunting turkeys in Mississippi is pretty cutthroat. But I say it. I don't think it has to be that way. I think if we're not sharing those experiences, all I can do is tell somebody what happened while I was out there in the woods. But if I have somebody with me, they can experience it as well, and they can get hooked. So imagine when I put them first. I've been blessed to take a lot of turkeys and different things. So
And deer.
yeah, and deer. So by me putting other people first, that's how you keep the legacy and the tradition going on.
Passing it on.
that's great. Yeah, that's a really good point because there like I was saying, there's just so many people that they're in it for themselves because they want the social media likes whenever they post a picture of a 180-inch deer, or they want that notoriety whenever they shoot the big tom. But I mean, I think the way you have laid it out and the way you've kind of mentioned it here is really what makes hunting special for a lot of people. And I'd say even the majority of people is because they've always had somebody, at least for the most part. I know for me personally, and the majority of hunters, they've had somebody that come before them to show them, here's how you do it. Here's how you respect the animal. Here's how you go through the process. Here's it's all about learning, and the only way we can learn is by people who have that experience before us. And it's like you were saying, it's the only way that the tradition of hunting and the legacy of hunting is going to continue on.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And that's something that you guys have definitely prioritized with your kids. I've watched some of your all's videos that you put on YouTube and stuff. And, the involvement that you guys have with your kids, even the little ones, like the littlest one, you guys have them out there, could be setting up decoys, could be checking for sign, or even out in the blind with you. And that's awesome that you guys have done that with your kids.
Right. You got to make it interesting. You got to make the family affair. We're not necessarily trying to push it upon them, but it's like a lifestyle, and they're learning even when they don't realize they're learning. Just being out there, just to hear uh, the animals, just to hear the birds. It all of that comes together that makes who we are. And so having our kids, it's really a blessing to bring them up in that lifestyle. And hunting, it's more than just taking an animal. It's about uh, discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's about um, confidence. It's very educational. I mean, um, I never learned so much about grasses and trees and fruit and different things and tied it all in until I became a hunter. So I feel that I'm actually, and we are actually better people because we understand the process of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are skills that, like, oh, so many people, like even adults. I mean, so many adults, you just don't have the skills of being able to identify, different species of plants or grasses or even animals, honestly. And I think it just kind of goes back to the world that we live in, where we just don't have that connection with God's creation like we had before. Like we're not out in God's creation because we're sitting at home, playing video games or watching TV or doing whatever we're doing. And you know whenever we have families like you guys, and like so many others that prioritize getting out in the outdoors, it really it brings the family closer together. And because everybody's learning together, everybody's going through the process of discipline, like what you were saying, together. And a family that they say a family that hunts together grows together. I mean, I think it's definitely the truth. And I think you know just any kind of process where you are challenging yourself to learn something new, learn something that is not necessarily mainstream. Because I mean, there's not, I'd say definitely hunters are, of course, the minority as far as the general population goes. And learning something that is not necessarily mainstream is, I mean, it's a process that is required. And those families that come together and want to learn it together, they definitely benefit from it.
Right. And also, like you said, even with our kids, it's helping them to develop their character. They're young now, so as they get older, they will have those skills that they learn out there in the woods. They will have all of those skills to take with them as they get older, and gun safety skills, how to handle firearms, practicing. All of that plays a major part in their life as they get older and get out into this real world as well. And hunting, it's a tradition that's passed down from generation to generation. It's a way that we provide organic meat for our family. It's a way to teach us to be self-sufficient and to be able to provide. It's on our own or for our family or for our friends. You just never know what'll happen, and it's just a good thing and a good skill to know how to do. And even when it comes to fishing as well, hunting and
Hmm.
fishing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially, right now, I think a lot of people, 4 months ago, they probably wouldn't be saying that this is how things would be looking right now. But, the skills that you mentioned, providing, figuring out a way to provide food for yourself, knowing how to handle a firearm, these are things that could very potentially be, extremely helpful now. And then, of course, in the future, looking in the future and as far as how things are kind of playing out. And these are skills that a very small percentage of people really know, and are confident with. And the fact that you guys have done that, and so many other people have done that, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And of course, to see how those skills are going to come to light whenever it's actually time to use those. And I thought, I wish so many people took the same approaches which you guys do. And what I try to do with my own kids and my family is to teach them how to handle a firearm. I think that's where a lot of, I guess, I hate to use the word ignorance, but I guess that's what it is. But a lot of the ignorance of guns and the fear of guns comes from the lack of confidence and the lack of knowledge that the general population, maybe not general population, but a lot of people have towards firearms. And the the whole idea of trying to banish the Second Amendment, where it kind of comes from, is that fear of not really understanding and respecting firearms. And that's great that you guys have done that.
Yeah, we most definitely agree with you.
So you guys have also recently taken up a an ambassador kind of position with Turning Point USA. So what kind of is Turning Point USA? You know, for those people that may have not have heard of it or may not be as familiar with it, what is that program about?
Basically, in so many other words, Turning Point is a nonprofit organization, and that organization, their main mission is to identify, educate, and train and organize students to promote the principles of fiscal responsibility, free markets, and limited government. So basically, just getting their word out there, about those things and bringing awareness to it, and to fight for those rights and things like that. So that's basically in a nutshell.
And one thing about Turning Point USA, uh, they found out about us, and they, I guess they saw our page and different things. And the thing about it is, me and Lakeisha, a lot of people, we have conservative values, meaning traditional American values. We feel strongly about our faith. We're strongly about the union between man and woman. We feel strongly about being pro-life, uh, for being active, for being, for 2A, for Second Amendment rights. And so our way of life, our lifestyle, quite naturally lined up. And what it is, it actually gives us a platform as well, uh, because it's there's one thing, you have the left and the right, and a lot of times you'll see the left try to portray, even me and Lakeisha being Black Americans, they'll try to portray you to be just one particular way. But the thing is, America is diverse. America has diversity, and we should be able to have freedom of speech. Freedom to voice who we are, and this is just who we are. And Turning Point is just giving us a platform as well to voice uh, our beliefs.
Yeah, that's great. That's great that you guys have really embraced that idea too, because you know it's just with everything feeling like it's under attack right now. You know, those traditional conservative American values. You know, I fall right in line with those same values. I'm right there with you as far as being outspoken about my faith, which is why this podcast even exists. The whole idea of Rice Kill Eat is, of course, combining the ideas of faith and hunting together. So, being outspoken about the faith and being pro life and being pro gun and all those kind of things, that's something that if you say that in the wrong arena or if you say that to the wrong ears, like it can be, you can get a lot of backlash for it. And I'm so glad that we have people like you guys that have, they're taking a stand and they're fighting back against, the mainstream media or whatever it may be that's causing a lot of these issues and causing a lot of this division between people that in reality, if you're, having a conversation like this, or if you're, walking down the street, or if you're standing in line at the grocery store, a lot of that division isn't really, taking place. And, I feel like the general population of Americans, like we want to be together, like regardless of, you know, differences that we may have, we want to have that union. I'm so glad that we have people like you guys that are taking a stand for that kind of stuff.
Definitely.
That's great. That's great. But how's that bond working together and that kind of thing? How is that kind of translated into your everyday life? Of course, you guys are working together. You guys have a platform together. What kind of stuff has that done as far as your everyday life kind of stuff goes?
Pretty much, like him said, we pretty much together all the time, and it has brought, like with the kids being home once the school's in it, it has brought us closer together. As a family, we're spending more time together, and all of this quality time, and there's something that you can't get back, and
Uh, Hunting, for instance, it's allowed me to really. Lakeisha is not my sidekick. Uh, when I say in the woods, it was a time where I felt like she was my sidekick, but now um, she's a person I can actually um, get a second opinion from, or the first opinion. I say, Lakeisha, what do you think? Should I sit up here? What do you think? So and I mean, Lakeisha, will get sweaty and downright dirty. Get some dirt on her fingernails. I mean, because a lot of the things that we do, most of the time, me and Lakeisha carry the load, because we do have other family members that hunt as well, but we basically carry the bulk of from hanging stands and
Food plots.
yeah, food plots and
That's a
all
lot
these
of
kinds
work.
of things. But in the midst of that, it's developed a bond where Lakeisha, I can trust her, I can
Hmm.
count on her, and we can depend on each other. So it's solidified, and I mean, you talk about the things that Lakeisha can do on the computer as far as like using software or Final Cut Pro. It's a lot of people to do our editing. It's a lot of people that have to go to classes to be able to do this. So, but Lakeisha just kind of, it's almost like she just took right to it, and it's really brought the bond to the point where there I've realized, and it's totally evident, 100% that Halo could not exist without the H and the L. So therefore, I have to have Lakeisha for it to say Halo, and it has to be a H for Henry for it to be Halo. So it's brought our bond together to the point where we know that the only way what we're doing is going to work out is if we do it together.
On one accord.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's awesome. So, Lakeisha, you are the one that you kind of put all the clips together for your all's videos on YouTube, and you do all the editing as far as all that kind of stuff goes.
Yes, I like to always say that I'm the producer. No, I'm the editor. Henry's the producer. So we kind of work. It's like a team effort. He may have this idea, and I'll go and execute it. He's like, okay, let's do it like this. And I'll just go and do my thing on the computer. And he's like, oh, I love it. So that's like him said, we work together. We kind of feed off of each other. Something that I'm lacking, Henry knows, or something he's lacking, I give him ideas. So we kind of bounce the ideas back and forth off of each other, and I think that's what makes it really work as well.
Yeah, that's great because I was watching, like I was saying before, I was watching a lot of your all's videos, and it looks like it was done, like a professionally. Like it's very impressive that you I guess you kind of self taught yourself. I mean, how long did that kind of take for you to learn how to do that?
Believe it or not, I'm pretty much kind of hands on when it comes to learning new things. But if I just kind of play with it for a little while, eventually I just catch on quick because at first I was working with the Adobe, doing my editing in, and then we switched over to the Final Cut. So I really had to kind of pick that up. It was like a whole nother thing compared to Adobe, and it's basically just going on there playing with it and just getting hands on. And if I have to figure something out, I go YouTube it and just work it step by step. But I pretty much can kind of pick up on it pretty quickly.
Yeah, my mind is blown. She's my. I'm gonna tell you something. I don't think it's very many hours of instruction that she
No.
got from anyone else. I mean, she made some phone calls, but it's beyond me how she how she gets it done because it to me it looks like I don't know another language, all these bars and graphs and different things, and so
And believe it or not, I think it's the challenge of trying to learn it. Even like doing our little intro on one of our older videos, even working on that intro, I was thinking like, no, I can't get this. But you know what? It was just the love for that challenge. It just made me want, like, I just said, I gotta get this. I just gotta figure it out. And I think that motivated me to learn more and to learn how to do those things. So.
and by the way, let me insert this. This is America. There are there's all kinds of opportunities in this country, and we're saying it just from in our house. If we just sat there and just thought that things could happen or wait on things to happen, nothing would happen. And
Yeah,
I think that all of us as Americans, we got to realize that God has given us talents and gifts and abilities. And the thing is, you just got to step out of your comfort zone and try it. Go
Mm-hmm.
for it. You only live one life, and so I've come completely out of my comfort zone with some of the things that I picked up on, and so there's opportunity. So if you can see it, you can do it.
absolutely. That's a great point to make because I think just so many people they just sit around and they have all these dreams and they have all this stuff that they want to do and it's like, man, it'd be nice if I could do this or it'd be nice if I could do that, but that's really where it ends for a lot of people, and it's unfortunate because a lot of people they have some really good ideas and they have some things that could really benefit life for a lot of people in general, and but it never really flourishes because they don't want to put in the work. Like, I know you've
Right.
mentioned putting in the work. I know you mentioned discipline, as far as hunting goes, but that translates over to life also. I know that's something you guys can relate with, is that, we all have something that we want to do. God has given us a purpose on this planet. He told us whatever we do it for his glory. And of course, that's something that, and I don't think that whenever he said that, I don't think he was talking about sitting on the couch dreaming up stuff. Like, I think we are designed, and I think we are made with a purpose to go after and seek after his purpose for us. And, like you said, we live in a great country where we have the opportunity to be able to do really just about anything we want to, as long as we're willing to put in the work, and as long as we're willing to dive in head first and prioritize it in our life.
right? And even when it pertains to hunting, um, I didn't have any teachers to teach me how to hunt. It was the challenge. I made a whole lot of mistakes learning how to hunt, from deer hunting to turkey hunting.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Right. Go out there, and I mean, we used to get blown out the woods by deer. They would smell us and everything. I didn't understand. Turkeys. Um, I spooked so many turkeys thinking they wasn't there, and I get up, and all of a sudden, these fellas where, and and your heart goes pumping and different things. But it just was about being consistent, and trying and not giving up. If I can leave anything that may help someone, it is don't give up. You know, no matter what you're doing, just keep on keeping on. Don't if you don't if just like the song said, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. So that's
That's right.
pretty much the
That's
whole
right.
way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. And that kind of reminds me a little bit of something you had posted. I think it was maybe last week or something on Instagram, basically saying, like we live in America, and I think it was, I'm sorry, let me think about this for a second, but basically you said you have two kinds of brothers. Okay. You have two kinds of blood brothers, those who are, following Christ, and then those who are loving the pursuit, loving the pursuit, of course, of hunting, and of the pursuit of, the American dream. And a lot of people, that's those kind of apply to both of those kind of things apply to the same people. And that reminds me so much of that, because I think it's so true that God has put us in this country to be able to do something incredible. And I think, despite the craziness that's going on in the world, I think if we can kind of push through this stuff, and we can kind of, keep our eyes on him and continue to seek him, then, I think we have an incredible amount of opportunities. And that's something that I think you guys could definitely relate with.
Just reach someone, get someone to pick up a bow, or to pick up a rifle, or to go out and camp, or pick up a rod and reel. We're affecting people, and we can get them to read the Bible and different things like that. Then we've made a difference.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys being on the Rise Kill Elite podcast with me. I do have a couple more questions as we're kind of closing down here. This is a question that I always like to ask my guest. I get all kinds of answers from it, and it's just been really cool for me to kind of see where these answers are coming from. And so my last question for you is, what does hunting mean to you?
Uh, Hunting means everything to me. I mean, it's an outlet. It's a way of life. It's it's a part of me. I mean, from my very being, my very existence. I think that God, He gave us dominion over animals, and He told us to also to be good stewards. So when I go out
Mm-hmm.
hunting, um, I feel that much closer to fulfilling my role, and to fulfill my purpose. Hunting is special. It means a lot. It means so much that if you love it too much, you can, or if you pursue it too much, then you know you'll go astray. But I guess you have to balance the love of hunting, because you don't want to put anything before family, put anything before God. So
Yeah.
it just gave me an outlet, and it gave me something to do when when Christ came into my life. And so hunting will always be special to me because I just and I'm not trying to say the same thing over and over, but I just feel at home out there in the woods.
Like just being out there, just enjoying God's nature, knowing that He put this on earth for us. And
it's just such a rewarding feeling, just reflecting on the first whitetail I harvested, and that Christmas holiday several years back, and I saw it on the table, and I looked at it, and I was like, wow, that's my deer. I went out and I was successful, and that image of that 4-point walking, it was so majestic, and I mean that really changed my life, and it's opened up all kinds of doors to sport of hunting and fishing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great, and I think so many people can relate to that. I know I definitely can. The whole idea of just being able to connect with God and being able to get out there and provide for our families and provide that Christmas meal for our families with the meat that we were able to harvest ourselves. And it's just that's incredible. And I appreciate you guys being on the Rice Kill Eat podcast with me. You guys brought up a good point there, that if you pursue it too much, if you pursue hunting too much, then it can really start to overtake you and make you go off the path. I mean, unfortunately, so many hunters, come November, it's like I got to get out in the tree stand as much as I can. I got to get out in the tree stand. I got to sit in the blind as many hours as I can. And from a male's perspective, from a husband and a father perspective, I've done that before and I've felt terrible because of it. Because on the flip side, my wife and my kids are sitting at home, wondering when daddy's going to get home. So, I mean, that's something that I think so many people, they struggle with, come November or, April for turkey season, or really just anytime. And whenever we don't prioritize the things that truly matter, and that's of course our relationship with God, our spouse, and our kids, and everything else after that, it can fall into place. But those three things gotta be 1, 2, and 3. So that's great that you guys have had that. I'm so glad I was able to connect with you guys. So glad that you guys wanted to come on the Rice Kill Eat podcast. It's certainly my pleasure, and I love the way you guys have used your platform. So thank you.
We appreciate the invite, and it's been a blessing. It really has to us.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. So where can they connect with you? Where can they check out your social media accounts? Where can they check out your videos, all that kind of stuff?
Okay. Yes, you all can find us on Instagram at HALO_Chronicles, as well as on Twitter at HALO Chronicles, on Facebook, HALO Chronicles, or Henry and Lakeisha Outdoor Chronicles. And also you can go to our website at HALOhunting.com. So definitely check us out there as well.
All right. I'm going to put all that information down in the show notes of the show. So whenever it pops up on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast platform it pops up on, all this information will be down in the show notes. So again, thank you guys. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And I appreciate you being on the Rice Kill Eat podcast with me.
Thank you so much, Tyler. God bless.
Anytime.
All right, guys. So there you go. There's my talk with Henry and Lakeisha. Hopefully you guys were able to really enjoy that conversation as much as I did. Be sure to connect with them at the information that's down in the show notes. You guys can find that in the description of the show, so be sure to check that out. Also, if you guys got any value from today's episode or any value from the Rice Kill Eat podcast in general, I want to ask that you guys leave a rating and review on the podcast platform that you are listening to. I've said it over and over, but those ratings and reviews, those go a long way in being able to organically grow the show. That way, more and more people can listen to the Rice Kill Eat podcast, and the messages that we're sharing on the show will be able to get into more people's ears. So if you guys are getting any value from the Rice Kill Eat podcast, especially from today's episode, then I just want to ask that you guys leave a rating and review on the podcast platform that you're listening to. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Rice Kill Eat podcast.